Good morning, YouTube community. It's your buddy Chop It On coming at you with another episode of Chop Talk brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports, MMA to PGA. We run it out there all day. And yeah, that was a cheesy rhyme, but I've got the time. Now, I can keep going being stupid and whatever else. We're going to dive into some content today. The first thing I've got to tell you is a couple of things. Number one, contemplate becoming a member of DFSArmy.com. Run down to the comment section, click the link, use code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Trigger that 10% off discount. We're advising people daily. You've seen the winners this week alone. I mean, I think we're on a back-to-back streak of $100,000 winners in NFL. We popped two more $10,000 winners in NBA last night. We got another $3,500 winner in a showdown slate somewhere. Guys, it's just happening. The coaching, the content, the tools, it all comes together and works. I've spent hours this morning already talking in my own coaching channel about bankroll, getting your head right, staying positive, all of those things that I bring to the table, and I know all of the experts in all of the other sports that I can introduce you to so that you can improve your DFS game once you get beyond me. I'll get you going. I'll get the fundamentals there. I'll plug the big leaks in your game, and I'll pass you off to the other guys so you can continue to grow. Everybody knows their limitations. Everybody knows their strengths and their weaknesses. We work together as a team to help build you. That's what we do. And second of all, thank you very much for helping me with December sweeps. We're going to start January sweeps soon, and I'm going to make that drawing sometime tonight after lock. I'm going to probably pull this down so that I can at least get the retweets put into the randomizer that I'm going to draw from. I'll contact two of you through direct message on Twitter. You got to be following me, and you've got to have retweeted that pinned tweet or the others that I've requested. And you guys have closed the month out really, really strong. That gives me hope that we've got real momentum building for January and maybe for February. And maybe we will get to the point where we're giving away 3, 5, 10 subs every single month. I don't know what we can grow to, but I would give away 100 if I got the opportunity to. It just has to make financial sense for me because I'm paying for these out of my own pocket. So thank you for helping. Let's keep growing. Let's keep the momentum charging forward, and maybe you end up getting 3 months this year bought for you. I have no idea, but that's my job, is to make sure that we are affordable and we deliver the content to everybody from every skill level to every bankroll level, and we just keep pushing forward and making the Army a better and better and better community. Let's dive into some of the coaching. I'm going to combine two of the sports today. We're going to do NBA first because it doesn't take as long, but I've got a twist for it. And then I'm going to do NHL. And so those of you that don't play NHL, you guys can tune out. Those of you that do play NHL only, you can skip ahead until you find it. Once again, I appreciate the likes and subscribes and all the follows. Let's dive in to the NBA research station. You know me, I sort by And1, but I'm doing things a little bit differently today, just to throw a wrinkle in there, just a little bit of a twist. You can go through, I will give you your point guard, shooting, all these guys first, and we're going to call it about the first, say what? It's a big enough slate. 5 guys, right? Top 5? Once this comes back up, because if you let it sit too idle, we have the same problem with the NHL research station. If you let it sit too idle, it kind of goes into sleep mode. Got to wake its butt back up. And there is no way those are the only guys. Oh, I've already got it sorted, don't I? Looky there at how I chopped that player pool down just that fast, potentially. Yep. These are your 20-point and your 4.6, 4.6 and a half and above value point guards. That's it, those 5 guys. Sorted by And1, descending order. This is it. 5 guys are scheduled to score more than 20 points and are going to bring you, per their price, more than 4.6x tonight. Okay, now, I mean, we know some of these guys are going to fail. Some of these guys will do great. But this is one way to chop your player pool down super quick. Westbrook, Simmons, Kemba Walker, Lonzo Ball. You get a little bit of ups, you get a little bit of downs. Don't know about Tim Frazier if he's going to do it again or not. We had a big fiasco this week in maybe missing that call. But again, the call, Tim Frazier is a volatile guy. He's not necessarily a cash guy, and his price spiked because of it. At a very cheap price, he was in a drop score format, he was probably worth the gamble over on DraftKings. I don't think many people would have taken him outside of tournaments because of his volatility. But either way, he hits the list again tonight. He's not got a very good And1 matchup rating, so he's not in a very positive matchup, but he is forecast by us to score some points, so that'd sure be interesting. Let's kick over to shooting guards. Got more. There's a deeper position there. Again, 4.6x or above. I just ran that filter, greater than 4.65, so that it kicked out the 4.6s and only has the 4.7s. And then same thing here with the projections. I did greater than 19.5, so it kicks out the 19s and only takes the 20s and above, right? And that's what you see. Now, I've sorted by and1. You can see they've all got pretty strong ratings. So they're pretty much all playable in some form or another. Now, you may narrow it down to just the top few, but there they are. There's your list. If I go to shooting guard, small forward, it's fairly deep as well. Tonight, you can see some big value in Justice Winslow if he plays. He's wearing the Q tag with the orange. 5.0, 5.0. You got some decent value, another 5.3 in Wilson Chandler. You've got some decent value here. Run over into power forward. Look at that. So far, point guard's our weak spot tonight. And I'll tell you what you're going to do with that here in a minute. But that's a pretty deep position as well. Again, now the and1 ratings fall off a little bit. You might not want to go below about here. There's a big cutoff right there. You might really only have 3 guys you're considering. But for guys that are scheduled to score 20 points and are scheduled to bring some value, there they are. Center spot. When you've only got one spot at center and it's got 8 choices, 7 choices, it's a pretty deep spot, tonight. And you've got a little bit of a varying degree. You're not punting necessarily, but you're paying down a little bit if you want to. Let's go back to point guard. When you've only got 4 or 5 on there and these bottom 2 aren't great, you really only got 3 and they're expensive, yes, it's telling you position is scarce tonight. You're going to be paying up at point guard. You're going to need to find your value in your deeper positions. Maybe a James Johnson, JaMychal Green, maybe something like that. Now, again, research will change throughout the day. We're going to be looking at this a little bit. Wilson Chandler, Jay Crowder. These are guys that may be offset in the deeper position where we can pay down. You might pay up for LeBron here to be contrarian tonight. Now, you're not going to be all that contrarian. The world's going to be on him. Back-to-back night, I think, right? But you might want to consider something like that in a tournament type of situation. Or you might just fade it, come down here with a chalk, let everybody else, if LeBron decides to take the night off. So let's turn that off, but that's what positional scarcity basically will tell you as well. We've got a decent list from top to bottom when all the positions are considered. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll over here, and I'm going to throw that wrinkle at you. Coming all the way over here to cash and GPP. We talked consistency a little bit inside the Army, and some guys were asking this morning, and so I thought I'd expand on it a little bit today. Guys were asking, what happens when I continually get trapped with cash game plays, and I'm not posting big scores, I'm just posting scores that just kind of eke across the cash line. Well, what you've got when you focus so much on floor, what you wind up doing is what I did for years, which is you're hoping to get lucky in your ladders, your triple ups, quintuple ups, and things like that. But really what you're doing is you're limiting your upside. And the problem with that is when you have nobody's foolproof. Even these cash safe guys will dud on you. 1 or 2 in your lineup may dud. A couple of these guys are going to dud on you. That generally happens. What you need elsewhere in your lineup is the upside guy that can repair that damage and can offset that. And let's say the overall goal for your lineup is 5x, and that's 300 as a target score on Fanduel. What you're looking for, somebody with 6x and 7x potential to repair the damage on the guy that only gets 4x, or the guy that you weren't counting on dropping that you have to wind up dropping. That's kind of the scenario. That's when you start building for both floor and upsider and ceiling. That's the question that I'm trying to learn. I learned it from, believe it or not, the one that really turned the light bulb on. I've got a lot of mentors throughout the industry. The one that turned the light bulb on was JM to Win from Roto Grinders and now 1 week season or whatever. And he just mentioned that what he continually does, he asks himself through his building process, does this guy have a secure floor? And is he in a matchup tonight that will allow him to frequently test his upside? If I ran this exact slate 100 times, what they're doing right now at DFSArmy.com is running this simulator, the sim probabilities that runs at 5,000 times, and I'm going to see how often is this guy hitting 5x. Is his floor secure? Yes. Is his ceiling testable? If the answer is yes, he's got a secure floor and he's got big ceiling potential tonight, he's going to go on my list. How do I find that? Well, I can come over here and look at the cash target numbers, the percentage of times that a guy hits 5x, And I can sort by that now instead of the and1 and bring the high probability guys up to the top. I've already weeded out my list. They're already getting 20 points. They're already getting 4.7x value and above. So there really shouldn't be a real hard factor here in finding out who's going to be consistent. Looks like Steven Adams is very consistent. Is he in a good spot tonight? That's up to you to determine. Jay Crowder, Wes Matthews, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is really consistent at hitting 5x. Not too consistent at hitting 6x, of course, because his price is so damned high. But he's very consistent. He's been a pretty cash-safe player when he doesn't. I mean, he hasn't had the injury problems he's usually had. He's had them, and we tease him for it. But it's been a pretty solid year for him, honestly. And that's a good way to bank 60-some-odd points from the guy, is to consider him on a night like tonight. That said, we're looking for guys that also hit this list over here, the 6X list. I'm looking for guys that are green. I'm not going to sort by this. I'm going to leave it here because I want my high floor guys here. And then I'm going to look for my ceiling guys. Who is frequently testing their ceiling? Jay Crowder? I mean, of all people, right? But if I hit 26 points out of him at $4,400, what the hell does it allow me to do with the rest of my money? Anthony Davis, lock up higher floor. 26% of the time Wes Matthews hits 6x. Over 50% of the time he's hitting, 5x. So what we're doing is we're asking ourselves that question. Does he have floor? Is he going to test his ceiling? Does he typically test his ceiling? You could probably run back over here looking at the last, say, who's hot? 3 versus 10 game average. And start running the 3 game average. There's your 10 game and your 5 game average. It looks like Steven Adams is running a little cold lately. Maybe he's not in consideration for that 6X list, right? Anthony Davis, 61 points over his last 10 games, 59 over his last 58. Now, do you see why he's so damn consistent? His average hasn't moved from 1, 3, 5, 10 games very much, right? So we can use these numbers to start pointing out to us who might be consistent, who might be running a little bit hot. Once I make a list of 50 guys, now I got to narrow it down to 9. Now I'm going to cut it down even further by looking at the next hurdle to get over, and then the next hurdle to get over. And only those that make it it's kind of like my own little survivor list. I take the entire player pool of NBA today, and I just start putting it through survivor test after survivor test. And those that fall off are dead to me. And those that fall off again are dead to me. Only those that keep getting stronger and stronger indicators keep making it through my survivor pool to make my final 9. And even then it fails. This is daily fantasy sports. It's volatile. But there are logical processes you can follow, explanation, tools, content you can read, things that can indicate from experts in the industry that can start pointing you in the right direction. And then you can use tools like this to further your research. You can let us weed out all of that first couple of hours for you, and then you can do the rest. And then if you have questions, you can hopefully use this information and this data to propose an intelligent debate instead of going in and saying, Steven Adams or Jay Crowder tonight. I don't know. You didn't give me anything to go on. If you run into our coaching forums, though, and say, a couple, Wes Matthews or Jay Crowder, I'm looking at similar numbers here and similar numbers here. How can I further narrow this choice down? Man, you ask a question like that, and you are going to get multiple coaches just like a vulture on a carcass coming in on you and trying to help. That's the squeaky wheel that gets greased, not the guy that comes in 10 minutes before lock when everybody's panicking and goes, what about this guy? You're going to get ignored, dude. No offense. But it's like building a following on YouTube or Twitter. You've got to bring something to the table. If you provide no value or no challenge to your mentors, they're going to look past you when they've got 2,000 people to look at. Is it right? Not in an ideal world. But is it reality? Absolutely. I'm trying to help you get better yourself by teaching you also how to get these guys' attention. Ask these questions, propose debates. Don't be a dick. Don't be personal and whatever else. Don't call a guy an asshole and expect him to cater to you and help you at all. Don't pull the whole, when you get pulled over by a cop, oh, I pay your salary thing. Nah, bullshit. You're going to get ignored. But ask it the right way, and you will get all of the attention you want and then some. We've already gone through the player pool. That's your NBA in a nutshell. But you can come over here and start looking at these guys for who's liable to hit their ceiling more often than others tonight, and assess that situation for yourself and how much do you want that guy on your team. Okay? Let's get past NBA and let's dive into NFL. That was only 15 minutes, or NHL. Let's see if we can't get into the NHL part here. I've cut down my teams already. Okay, I'm going to kick over here to the goalies tab because I'm looking at, I've shown you through NHL.com how I'm finding maybe who's scoring in the past month, who's given up goals in the past month. I'll run those down with you really, really quick and why I narrowed down to the teams I narrowed down. But the first thing I'm going to look at is win percentage chance based on Vegas, and it looks like a 62% chance for Braden Holtby. And this will come to light when I give you the numbers. 8,600 is a tough pill to swallow, but he's in a good spot tonight, and he's probably one of the only goalies I would consider, if not the only goalie I would consider. I would almost go all in on the guy. Now, maybe that's crazy, maybe that's stupid, I don't know. All I know is all the arrows are pointing at him. All right, so let's dive into some of the skaters. And then let's talk about why I narrowed down this list first while you're looking through this list and looking at my center spot. In fact, I'll go ahead and I'll shut that off for you. And you can look at who's the top. I've already got it sorted by their last 10 games. So these are all the guys that are running high on the last 10 games. Wonder why we always stress the top line in the first power play unit. Look at all the guys that get the points consistently on their last 10 games. Last 20 games would show very similar numbers, very similar list. A couple of guys might flip-flop here and there, but most of this is going to be the same. Okay? So that's why. They get all the ice time, they get all the opportunity, and therefore they produce the results. They're also the most talented skaters on their team. So why these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams out of these, 2, 4, 6, 8 teams, 10 teams? Why these 5? Buffalo scores the 7th most goals in the month of November. Florida gives up the 4th most goals. So that's a positive matchup. It's a good offense going up against a defense that lets up goals. Florida has an outside shot because they scored 9th most goals in this month, and Buffalo is 22nd or so in giving up goals, so not exactly elite. That'd be down around 28, 29, 30. But not terrible, but not bad. So what we're looking at is an okay defense and a pretty bad defense going up against 2 pretty good offenses. So that tells me there's potential here to game stack this game and potential for a shootout. I wish I could graphically show you, what I write down on my piece of paper. But then I look at New Jersey and Washington, and the only thing I see there is Washington scoring 11th most goals in the league facing New Jersey, giving up 6th most. The reason why Holtby, well, first of all, that should win the game because New Jersey is scoring 21st most goals. Washington is allowing only 23rd most. So really and truly, Washington's defense is okay. New Jersey's not scoring a lot right now. Those 2 numbers alone should point towards favoring Washington. Washington is also at home. Let's add in the fact, though, that we look for goalies that take on shots. New Jersey shoots the puck, man. That's not their issue. They generate the 3rd most shots in the month of November anyway. 3rd most shots as a team, and they're facing Washington, who has allowed the 6th most shots as a defense or as a team. So if I'm allowing shots on goal but not giving up a lot of goals, my goalie's in a great spot to win the game, but he's also going to see a lot of shots and turn away a lot of shots. Man, that's a recipe for a good night. Will it work out that way? I don't know. But I can tell you, if that's the situation and we ran this slate 100 times or 5,000 times through a simulator, Braden Holtby is going to be your lead goalie a lot. Not every night, of course, but he's going to be a lot. So that's probably your safest goalie. That's probably your cash goalie. But then you can play the outlier game for leverage and say, but what if this is one of those nights, where so-and-so, Corey Schneider, shuts a team out, well, then play him in a GPP and hope you catch that, because what you're trying to do is you're taking the less than ideal goalie, but you're doing it on the chance you catch an outlier slate. Of those 100 times we run it through, Corey Schneider's going to lead it a couple of times, and you're hoping to catch one of those times at lower ownership. That's DFS in a nutshell. When I look down the list a little bit further, Anaheim and Carolina, I don't care all that much about. Neither team is really scoring a lot. In fact, both 30th and 31st for the month of November, and neither team has really given up a ton of goals. And St. Louis and Colorado is another matchup that I'm interested in tonight. St. Louis, 25th most goals scored this month, but Colorado's allowing 12th most, so that's okay. Colorado scoring third most in this month, which is interesting because they were just top of the list last night, but third most on the list in the month of November. St. Louis is allowing 18th most goals against. That's interesting. I thought that'd be worse. I've watched this team. I live in St. Louis, and they're not good right now. They're going through a lot of funk, and they are prone to give up 4 to 6 goals on any given night. And with the incredible concentration of power that Colorado has on that top line with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, it's going to be very chalky, but this is the night to load all three up. They just got down to Nashville and put a whooping on Nashville, with some goals. And it was these guys doing a lot of the damage. As a cash line, that's my favorite stack of the night, those top three. And it isn't even sneaky, but it's in an extra good spot tonight. It might not perform. Again, run this slate 100 times. I'm sure 20 times they're going to disappoint. But I'll bet 60 or 70 times they do pretty good, and I'll bet 10 times or so they do really, really, really good. That's the spot they're in. That's what I'm trying to bank on. So I'm trying to bank on what's most likely to happen for cash games. And this is a line that's going to do a shitload of damage, or it should. It should. LA and Calgary, not so much. 26th in goals scored LA, 12th Calgary. Calgary maybe an outside shot to make some rosters because, LA's not a great defense either, and Calgary's an okay offense. So maybe, but I didn't include them just because. So I cut it down to Buffalo and Florida hoping for a shootout, St. Louis, Colorado hoping for a shootout, and Washington. That's essentially why. Now what I'm going to do is go through that list, and I'm going to start pegging what players on these lists am I going to use. I come over here to the last 10 games. FanDuel average. DraftKings works the same if you play DraftKings. I sort by the last 10 games, and now I start looking for who's hot, who's running hot in this 5 game. I want this indicator. If you saw that video, I want the buy signal. I want this indicator above their baseline. If it is, I'm interested. If it's not, I'm not. I feel like they're overpriced. So how do I go about doing that? I cut out to my centers. And I'm not going to scroll back over and bore you with it. But when the centers are all here, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to show you that McKinnon is running hot. Backstrom is running hot. Eichel is interesting. He's almost on that buy signal, but he's not quite there. I believe he's a little bit overpriced for tonight. I want McKinnon bad. I'm going to want Backstrom for that Washington offense, being that I've got Colorado in a great spot and Washington probably in a very good spot. I've got access to Ovechkin. I've got access to Rantanen and Landeskog. I'm very, very, very interested in paying up for both those spots tonight. I just think there's too much efficiency or too much access to the entire offense that's going to happen with those two players. Now, would they be my one-offs? I don't think so. I think I'd probably get some others. And there's no way I'm going to get Backstrom in there with Rantanen and Landeskog and McKinnon. That's not going to happen. Unless I could, go offer myself out there as a defenseman on a min-priced, not even min-priced, like for free, just to take up a spot in my roster. But I don't see it. And you're not going to get it with Holtby. In fact, you're probably not getting all. You're going to need to devise a game plan. If you don't use Holtby, you can maybe get McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. But if you do use Holtby, that's going to be a tough one too. Real tough. You're going to have to take some one-off value out of some of these subpar offensive games. And you can do it. And you can hit on it. But it's going to be tougher. I'm just giving you the idea, the core build. And then you can fill in the pieces from there. But McKinnon, Backstrom, Ryan O'Reilly is running a little bit hot right now. Not hot, but he's running a little above his 10-game average. Soderberg is a value center. Soderberg's been a great play for a while. down here at 4,300. And with Colorado in such a good spot, it's a smidge contrarian because people are going to be focused on McKinnon. You could run Backstrom and Soderberg, and then you could turn around with Soderberg and run him with Rantanen or Landeskog and get access to a couple of those scoring lines for a cash game scenario where you decrease your chances of catching a dud, but you're not worried about really targeting every single point that comes out of that game for a GPP because you don't need it. You don't need every single point to beat half of the world. You just need to avoid the bad games. So you might spread out a little bit that way. That's something we talk about in these videos all the time. Braden Shen is picking up his game a little bit lately for $5,800. And Lars Eller, it would be a contrarian play out of Washington. If you don't want Backstrom, let's say you ran McKinnon and Eller, that'd be okay too. Kind of flip-flop that whole Soderberg Backstrom idea. Okay, let's kick down to the defenseman. Oops, one thing I didn't show you in the centers, I'll show you in the defenseman, is the percentage of team scoring. Big number. Carlson. Did I put Pietrangelo on the list? I did. He's running technically a smidge under his 10-game average right now, but he's still producing. And if St. Louis is going to make it a game, he's liable to be involved along with the Ryan O'Reilly. They make a great little mini stack if you're wanting that game to shoot out. Tarasenko is running above his average. You'll see that in the wingers. But Carlson, Petro, Ristolainen, Kempney's interesting at 3,500, 3,600. No power play time, which I'd additionally like to see, but there is some penalty kill time, I would imagine, which means the guy might specialize in blocking shots. You might have to check his SOGBS in our columns, which shows you his shots on goal plus blocked shots floor. And if his floor is 6-7 points a game, that's a phenomenal price for that, and it fills up a spot. And you drop him down in there with a value winger, and maybe you do get up there to that Colorado top line or that Washington top line. Keith Yandel, kind of interesting tonight. I don't know that he's really one of my top plays, but at 5,500 is not bad. And Bogosian's another real cheap one down here. No power play time, second defensive unit for Buffalo, but 3,500. So you could run double D punts, 35, 3,600. Now you can maybe start working on that top Colorado line. There's several ways, I guess, maybe to get there. It's going to cost you a little bit, but if you can establish a floor with these guys more times than not, you're not punting in the pure sense that you're just giving up the position. You've actually got some potential in there. Maybe not potential for assists and goals and whatnot, but you've got some there. That potential does exist at a smaller percentage, smaller frequency, but you're looking more for shots on goal and blocked shots. Maybe a little bit of penalty kill time to kind of help with the blocked shot because the power play is going to be shooting. Check the wings. And we're coming up on 30 minutes, so we're going to get ready to wrap up and get out of here. Turn you loose on your Friday. Mikko Rantanen, duh. I mean, this dude's the hottest thing going, leads the league in points. Pair him with McKinnon if you can. Landeskog's up there as well. That's great. I didn't show you the percentage of team scoring again. Dang it. Screw me. Hoffman, Wilson. How hot's Wilson running? Oh my gosh. His numbers are retarded. Skinner's another one that's running hot. And only 2 spots below him, Reinert, both on the 1. Guess who else is on the 1? Jack Eichel. Eichel's running a little below his 10-game average right now, so he's technically a little bit overpriced. But you can gain access to him through Buffalo with Skinner and Reinert. And Reinert's pretty cheap at 5,000. Skinner, too, for the percentage of team play. That's why it reminded me of that. In fact, I'll just show you now. Skinner, 33% of his team scoring. All of the team scoring comes through him. In Florida, Huberdeau right now is 33% of their team scoring. Dadonov, 30%. But look at Mikko Rantanen. I mean, come on. 44%. That's Bergeron-esque in Boston. That's your main dog on the slate tonight. If he is not 100% owned in cash games, you're doing it wrong. He needs to be. Round that out, and we'll show you McKinnon. Where was I? Huberdeau, Reinert, Comfer. If you want to run a 4-line guy, that is a GPP-only move if I ever saw one, but he's hot, and the price is justified right now. Tarasenko. If you want to play a little comeback game. Dadonov, heating up a little bit. Up in there with Huberdeau, right? Now this is interesting. For cash games, Dadonov, Huberdeau. Line 1, line 2 are covered. goal comes off of each line, you've probably got access to it in some way, shape, or form. And they overlap on the power play, so you can get a Dadonov who passes to, whoever who passes to Huberdeau, and you pick up the second assist in the goal. So you get a little bit of lucky overlap or correlation play that way. Dadonov, who else? Anderson. Where's Anderson? Josh Anderson in Colorado. Second line. It's not bad. Jost is on that list. Alexander Steen's on that list. Verana's more of a punt down here. Tage Thompson, David Perron made the list. These are the guys I'd be focused on, okay? Let me kick over to the centers again. Let me show you that player pool. And I will wrap up again, and I'll explain to you the cash versus GPP concept, and then I'll turn you loose. 43% out of McKinnon, 44% out of Rantanen. Come on. I mean, do you see why these two are paired together so often? That's, straight added up and say it's 80% of the goals. But for crying out loud, 40% of the time that a goal is scored, Rantanen and McKinnon factor into it in some fashion. That's big. Eichel. I like his percentage of scoring. He's just running under his 10-game average right now. And O'Reilly in St. Louis. If St. Louis is going to do anything tonight to be competitive, Ryan O'Reilly's going to be a factor. And at whatever his price is, $6,900, he's starting to creep up there. But when he was $6,200, $6,300, he's one of the best values going in hockey. Shut your eyes, run him out there. Hope they have a decent night. If you're playing tiers, my goodness, you get a tier 1 out of Eichel or a tier 1 out of, I can't believe Colorado's not even on tiers tonight. That's funny, unless Rantanen is. But either way, let's talk a little bit. We'll under the line combos tab. Let's talk a little bit about blending these two together. See if I can find one. Here's a 2 and a 1 out of Okposo. He's on the power play 1. He's on line 2. I would overlap him with a Skinner, Reiner, Eichel type, because I'm getting access to this line and this line. We saw Tage Thompson on the list as well. But Okposo and Tage Thompson on the line 2 together, but then split apart on the power play is a little more risky way to stack a line, but it's not quite as risky as just stacking the 1 up. You get other teams that kind of spread out a little bit more, but usually you'll see a power play 1 guy down here on the second line. Like Kuznetsov up here. That's access to these guys, right? I don't see Ovechkin in here. That's going to require some news hunting. I haven't played Ovechkin for a couple of days, so I don't know why he disappeared. I don't follow the league as closely when I'm playing daily fantasy. I couldn't tell you who's leading their divisions other than Buffalo, and honestly, I don't care because I'm really just picking apart individual plays. I look over here, Jesper Bratt, power play 2. I don't know why we would play him, but if we did, you've got line 1 exposure, and then down here, correlating on line 2 with Zaka or something like that. I'd focus obviously more on Hall and Palmieri. Palmieri on the 2 and Hall on the 1, both overlapped on the same power play. Those two are great. Looks like Washington we already discussed. Some of these guys, you can find them down on the 3. Our page doesn't show the third line. But you can see there's a good mix. Look at this. Carolina. Stahl and Williams on the power play 2, and all of these guys down here on the 1. This is really your first line. I don't know why these are flip-flopped like this. I know it reports that way, and maybe it goes on minutes. But honestly, this is the scoring line in Carolina. So whatevs. All right, so basically what you're trying to do for GPPs, you're trying to correlate all the points so that when a goal happens, you get both assists and you get 30 some odd points in just one play. And that can really jump you up the leaderboard. When you're looking for 150, 160 points, that's 20% of your scoring right there. Almost. You really leapfrog some guys when you end up with that stack slam. I call it stack slam. But you can also separate off a little bit when one of them overlaps. Like a Matthew Tkachuk's a great play. He gets all this line 2 exposure when they do the damage, but he overlaps on the power play 1, gets a little bit of exposure if you get a little bit lucky to the top line when they do the damage on the power play. So that's what I do. In cash games, I break them apart a little bit. In GPPs, I stack them together. I hope it makes sense as to why. All right, guys, it's Friday. Jump down into that comment section. Use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Trigger that 10% off discount. Start following DFS Diary out on Twitter. It's my pinned tweet. Help me push that thing through the finish line tonight. Get me over 30 retweets. That'd be awesome. I really appreciate the help. And we'll buy a couple of memberships tomorrow into DFS Army. Probably take you a day or two to get in there. It'll be good for 30 days or so. Or if you're already a member, then we'll just work on comping your next time when the auto pay rolls back around. I'll just comp it for you. Comp it. I'll buy it. I mean, this is my own contest, my own sweepstakes, my own thing. So it comes right out of my own pocket, which is fine. I don't mind doing it at all. Got incentive to do it. Either way, that said, you've got your NBA list, you've got your hockey list, you're helping me with the sweeps, you're contemplating becoming a DFS Army. You're not contemplating, you decided in the last 30 minutes that you're just going to go do it. So click the link, use the code CHOP. I'll see you on the inside where I can explain a ton more to you than I can out here. I really appreciate you guys investing your time with me. Have a great weekend. Have a great holiday season. I think for our Jewish folks, the Hanukkah kicks off Sunday, right? I think that's right. But either way, holiday season's coming. Kwanzaa lovers too. Love you all. Take care, guys. We will see you probably Monday. Have a good one.